Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. The state would call David McDonald.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, face the Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Just introduce yourself to the court. Spell your last name for the court.
Last name is spelled M-C-D-O-N-A-L-D. I'm a retired sergeant from the Raleigh Police Department.
And what were you a sergeant of? What was your last duty for
The SCU team, otherwise known as the SWAT team, and the Special Operations Unit.
And were you here for Casey Clark's testimony before lunch?
Yes, sir.
And so were you the lead of his unit?
Yes.
Okay. How long were you with the RPD?
At that point, 25 years from 1997 through 2022.
And over those years, what different roles did you have within RPD?
I worked as a patrol officer for a period of time. The majority of my time was spent between Special Operations and then the training division specializing in firearms and tactics.
And as the leader of the SCU team, were you out there leading, at the time, Officer Clark's unit there on October 13th of 2022?
That is correct.
Now, were you here and able to see the video of his body cam that was played?
Yes, sir, I was.
And I think maybe you might have been in some of the video after he is shot. Is that?
That is correct.
Can you walk us through what happened from your point of view? I guess let's start with you all have gotten to this fence line. What was the kind of plan, or how did you make a plan, and what did you do from there?
Okay. If you need me to back up at any point or expand on it, then certainly let me know. To kind of fast forward at the point of the fence, which is the most relevant of when this incident occurred, we had been using a K-9 Wake County Sheriff's Department style dog as a track. I have probably easily done hundreds of K-9 tracks at that point in my career. The characteristics of the animal at that time and other evidentiary value that I saw along the track led me to believe that we were very close in proximity to where the defendant was at that point in time. We held for a moment of time along the fence, and I typically would ask and still do ask, does anybody see another way to do this, and safety concerns? And we were having a short discussion that wasn't always captured on that body cam footage. Under a lot of other circumstances, when we're using a dog to track in different locations and such, we'll use the dog to cast. Cast mean expand out a search perimeter, make assumptions and assertions over where a suspect may be or an article may be. Due to the gravity and the severity and the violence that was involved in this incident, we did not have time to safely cast in every direction with all of the K-9 units that were currently working on this incident throughout the city, because what was not pictured on that screen was the numerous other K-9 tracks that were occurring. I felt like this was the most probable of tracks that we were on, given the testimony. I shouldn't say the testimony, the information that was relayed to me by one of the witnesses.
I'm sorry. I need you to slow down.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Given to me by one of the witnesses and directed on where a witness had observed the defendant flee into the woods. I believe that there was a very strong probability of that being the defendant's path of travel, which led us to the fence line. Once we were at the fence line, some decisions had to be made, whether or not we were going to pause, continue to assess the situation, or whether or not we were going to move a little bit faster. Given the path of violence and it being an active shooter, and we had numerous people that were deceased and shot at that point in time, my belief was if we held too long and waited for other accoutrements to get there for technological values, that the defendant would likely move into another position to kill other innocent people. So we were working under a K-9 track in a woodland area with active shooter type tactics that were being used and applied to a wood line with structures. Just beyond that structure, where the defendant was located and where we were ambushed from, was a house. And I recognized that that house probably had other family members in it, and there was a potential that there could be more victims on that path. There was also the greater potential that there was a major thoroughfare on the other side of that. And my concern was that if we did not begin moving faster to where this individual was, the defendant, that he may shoot other innocent people on the highway, on the roadway, was very probable.
And so you're, all the things that you're thinking about led you to take action quickly.
That's correct.
And so what action did you take and direct others to take?
So the first structure that you saw on the other side of the fence there was a blue three-sided with a roof metal structure. And that was going to be the first one that we encountered. A group of team members, patrol officers, and I crossed over the fence. The dog remained on one location to continue to monitor. Once the internal structure was cleared, and I was the team leader that actually moved momentarily into the structure, that was the safe structure, if you want to say safe, which obviously later on we determined it not to be, and evaluated to make sure that there was no ambush point right there. The other structure, which sat approximately 45 yards or so, 40 yards maybe, across from it, was the one that had a garage door on it, another supplemental door to the side, and it was enclosed, and there was also a John boat, if I remember correctly, that was flipped over inside that structure. We did not have an opportunity to evaluate from that vantage point due to visibility limitations right there. So when I cleared the first structure, I moved to the outside of it where I had staged a couple highway patrol officers and sheriff's deputies to pause momentarily and use the terminology to let them know that I'm a police officer coming around the corner because of the way that I was dressed at the time. Didn't want any confusion over what I was. And I made the first announcement, began to make the next announcement, and I heard the gunshot. Would you like me to continue on from this point or pause?
Yeah, so you hear the gunshot, immediately what do you do?
Immediately turned back in the direction of the gunshot, recognized that that sounded different than one of the firearms that we were carrying, intimate to my team, my unit. At the same time, I heard the gunshot, and I look over the corner of my shoulder. I noticed that Officer Clark had fallen to the ground. I made an immediate assertion to try and eliminate the suspect where he was. Unfortunately, when I turned my back to acknowledge the other officers, I didn't see a muzzle flash. All I heard was a report. I had a general idea of where that assault came from, the ambush came from, but I couldn't definitively say which one. So I moved to a position to try and evacuate Officer Clark along with Officer Martin to a position of cover. Would you like me to stop there?
Yeah, so you what does that mean? I mean, do you drag him out of the way?
Yes, Officer Martin had already begun a maneuver to move him out of the way. As he was moving pretty quickly, and to that officer's credit of offering extreme aid under horrible circumstances and danger to his own life, he had stepped out in the middle of the battlefield, if you will, and began removing Officer Clark from that situation. As he's doing that, I'm watching, trying to figure out, where is this actually coming from to pinpoint a volume of fire, and asking if anybody was able to locate a spot at the same time.
Yeah. So you get how many? Do you know how many shots came from that area?
I know that there was a minimum of one. It sounded like two prior to the volume of our gunfire beginning up.
Okay.
The report sounded different than what our firearms typically are.
You guys have moved Officer Clark out of the way. What are you doing next?
So we moved back behind the first blue building. That was the last cover of area that we knew that we had. Actually, concealment would be a better term for it. It was a metal building that, as I determined later on, a powder and a buckshot struck just beside my head at that particular location. And there was also evidence of where that had come from in a direction by looking at it. As I'm talking with Officer Clark and Officer Martin, I had ordered Officer Martin to immediately place a tourniquet on the leg, pull the pant leg up, determine if we had any other wounds. Asked Officer Clark at one point, do you have any other injuries? If I recall correctly, Ani said, I don't believe so. I remember most vividly that conversation, along with recorded efforts on that, about the request of a second tourniquet.
Okay. And so ultimately, Officer Clark is escorted to, it looks like a highway patrol officer. He's escorted away from that scene and is taken to the hospital. When he's gone, what happens there at that scene with those sheds?
So there was a realization that the one that we had was probably a very good vantage point to be able to observe him, but it was not a very safe location to observe. I began moving resources. If you're facing where the suspect was eventually located, and where I'm not sure in prior discussions the actual crime scene of his location for the fire position was, but if you're facing that direction, I maneuvered people off to the right-hand side. So if you're using a clock position, we would have, as Officer Clark, in a 6 o'clock position, been looking towards the suspect in a 12 o'clock position. Moved resources off to the 3 o'clock position, which would have been to the right. So we had an area of fire that we realized would be safe for us to not have a concern of accidentally striking another. I also was very concerned about the other people that might be inhabiting the house directly behind where he was, and tried to get angles of fire directed away from the citizens that would most likely be in that area.
Okay. So once you start moving people around, what are you doing next? Who are you communicating with?
A combination of different efforts. The first one was SHP Air. They were a great benefit to us, but I also wanted to be able to hear a little bit more acutely of where other items of interest may be, or suspects may be. I did want to keep them in the air for their opportunities.
When you say, sorry for interrupting, but SHP Air, you're referring
helicopters.
to highway patrol helicopters?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think we could hear that in the body cam.
Absolutely.
You wanted them to leave so you guys could hear better, right?
I wasn't really wanting them out of the area, more so a higher vantage point for better acoustical quality.
Gotcha. Once that happens, what actions do you take with regards to this shed where you believe the shooter could be?
Okay. I immediately started asking for electronic resources, drones and robots. Drones primarily because we were able to get an aerial view, other opportunities and technological advancements they have for tracking people. And I knew that I could also use that as a disposable piece of equipment to identify whether or not the threat is deceased. On numerous other instances that have been involved when typically somebody will commit suicide immediately following the assault pattern that they had done. So I wanted to be able to have an observation without putting somebody's face back right there.
You wanted to see what was inside the shed.
That is correct.
Without putting a person in harm's way, is that
Yes,
fair?
sir.
And you also mentioned robots. Can you describe what you mean by that?
So there's numerous types that we use. I wanted a smaller robot in the initial onset of it because of agility, for lack of better terms, of being able to get in there quickly. I knew that the resources we had for one of the later robots that we eventually did use was going to take more time, and time was of the essence on this to either identify we still have the threat contained, or we need to expand this perimeter out greater and be concerned that he's killing other people. We're making efforts to do so. I asked for heavy armor vehicles. We had 2 armored vehicles that eventually came into the location and were able to offer an opportunity for observation with moderately safe ballistic protection.
So once you made these requests and got these things in place, were you able to ultimately get a look either through one of these means or technological devices, get a look into that shed?
Yes, I was.
And can you describe what you guys were able to see when you did that?
The first encounter, if I remember the chronological order of events correctly on it, was the drone that we were using. One of the unmanned aircraft was able to get an observation of the defendant in the location of the second structure, oriented in a direction towards us with a firearm.
And when you say with a firearm, were you able to determine whether the defendant was holding the firearm or it was near him or what?
Yes, very much within arm's reach, the shotgun.
Once you were able to see that and gain that information, what were the next steps that you took?
Determine whether or not there was life, and there was, and whether or not there would be compliance,
Okay.
and there was not.
How were you able to figure out whether or not there was life?
They could see movement, and I said the unmanned aircraft presenting visual focus to us were able to see movement on that.
And so you knew he was alive. And when you say compliance, can you tell the court how you tried to gauge that?
Yeah, from the moment that the ambush occurred, and once our volumes of fire had stopped, officers were yelling. I was yelling, different commands, either make your notice identity, are you okay? Numerous times we offered, because we do have a duty to render aid, offered opportunities to submit, to have aid given right away, and none of those were met with any level of compliance. In fact, it was the opposite, with a level of aggression.
Okay, and can you describe that?
The recovery of another firearm, attempts, let me back up momentarily, the attempts to recover the shotgun into another position, which I think that due to the defendant's injuries at the time, he was having a hard time orienting the firearm in the direction that he wanted it to go. Sorry.
So, are you, when you're able to describe what the defendant is doing while he's in the shed, is this because you're able to view him through one of these devices?
The initial was through one of the devices.
Okay.
Then later on, direct observation.
Okay. And with regards to the firearm, was he able to manipulate it or move it in any way that you saw?
He was able to move it.
Okay.
He could not shoulder it.
Okay. And when you say move it, can you describe how he was moving it?
If I recall correctly, in the descriptions that were given to me, because I didn't have a direct observation at the time of that, the operator of the drone said that it looked like he was trying to retrieve the firearm, pull it back, and work the action on it,
Okay.
if I remember correct.
And I believe you mentioned a moment ago that I think you mentioned the retrieval of the firearm. Did you all use one of those robots or devices, or I guess tools, if you will, to try to get that firearm removed from that area?
Yes, we did. We used one of the robots with an arm on it initially to try and remove it, and then to try and pin the firearm down so he could not recover it.
What eventually happened in regards to either the removal of the firearm or the removal of the defendant from that particular area?
In terms of the, would you like me to walk through the string of events to the actual removal of the other gear that he had on?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And I don't know the exact amount of time that occurred from the time of the ambush to the time of removal of all items. It was a significant period of time. The negotiations were constantly going on. By this point, we had moved into one of the heavier armored vehicles known as a Bearcat. I was able to see directly what the defendant was doing. I had requested a bomb squad robot, and that came from training experience using that particular robot to manipulate other items, doors, and use other devices to gain entry and compliance. And that appeared to be the safest avenue of concluding what we needed to have done. In addition to that, because of past training experience in dealing with individuals that have done these same crimes, there was a concern of explosives and other devices. And the events that occurred prior to this and the number of victims that occurred prior to this led me to believe he would fall along those same lines of having multiple areas of danger, threat, and methods of killing. He had a book bag on. Numerous times we were asking him to remove the book bag, and he refused to comply. I wanted to use the heavier robot that we use to remove that book bag. There was still no compliance from him on that. Would you like to move into the escalation of force?
Yeah, well, so you tried to get the book bag off, and I believe you mentioned this long gun that he was manipulating at some point during this interaction. Did you all notice or discover any other firearms?
Yes. With the introduction of the bigger robot, he retrieved a pistol. He pointed the pistol at the robot. He would make motions as if he were firing the gun, but the gun was not firing, which led me to believe that he was attempting to fire the gun, and either with his a failure in the firearm or a physical injury that occurred because of the attempt at self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was not able to pull the trigger on the firearm. He was definitively pointing the firearm at the robot. I had moved resources away from there, so the decision was that I didn't have the right at that point to use lethal force on him, and it would not have been the best policy or the best opportunity for us to do that.
Okay. So what did you do after there was this non-compliance that you just mentioned? What did you guys do next?
Looked at the other ways that we could gain compliance. Some of those measures ruled themselves out. For instance, electronic control devices and such as that didn't lend themselves to it. So we came across the belief that using a 40 millimeter less lethal firearm would be the best action for that. And that shoots a projectile that is not designed to kill, but is designed to offer pain compliance.
And then what happened? Were you able to use those devices?
Yes. After the first impact with a 40 millimeter round, we gained some compliance. He attempted to start removing the book bag, which made me believe and realize and understand and know at this point he understood what the request was. It wasn't until the infliction of pain he started to comply.
And then what happened after that? Were you able to just tell us what happened next?
After the second round of a 40 millimeter impacting him, he took the book bag off, and then we made a decision on using the robot just in case there was a tripwire or another possibility of an injury to us, to move the defendant as a person away from all the other objects interior of that location.
Okay. And how did you do that?
Use the arm on the robot to grab a hold of his body and drag him.
And was that successful?
It was.
Okay. But where did the robot take the defendant?
He was removed, and this is coming from a recollection, approximately 15 feet or so away from his bag and from the firearms that we were able to observe immediately there, to a location where we were able to make an approach with some of our personnel. Would you like me to elaborate on that or pause there?
Yeah, so you drag him away from these implements and these things that are in the shed.
Yes.
And again, where in the shed? Just back right corner?
Yes.
If you're facing the shed, he's kind of in the back right corner at this point?
That's correct. If you're facing the shed, the last known location for the ambush was in the back right corner, which would be approximately a 1 o'clock position deep inside the shed. We removed him to the 9 o'clock position of that shed.
Okay. Once he's removed, what happens next?
We had already requested some very special medics that we carry on our high-risk incidents TAC meds. They were already on scene with us. They were standing by in the armored vehicle for us once we gave the clear on him. So once the robot removed him to a sufficient distance away from the firearms that we felt comfortable with maintaining good cover and control on him, we sent some ballistic shield operators as well as other personnel on foot directly to him, make an initial assessment to make sure that he didn't have a threat that was going to be a danger to anybody else, immediately asked for the medics to come up and begin their evaluation series.
And were they able to do that?
They were.
And soon thereafter, was the defendant transported via EMS?
Yes.
And I assume after that, what did your unit do after the defendant had been transported to the hospital?
We maintained a good portion of the equipment that we had used as levels of force at the scene, location right there. Some of us, because of our involvement indirectly at the time of the assault and the ambush, remained on site until other investigators get there and get a brief from us and a location of exactly where we recalled those specific acts of violence occurred.
Thank you, former officer, Sergeant McDonald.
Yes.
Questions from the defense?
Very briefly,
Yes, ma'am.
Sergeant McDonald, I just want to make sure that we're clear on the timeline. There was this initial shooting period, right?
Which period?
Where shots were fired at officers and some officers returned fire. Is that right?
Yes, from the very first officer that was killed, if you're referring to that.
No, I'm sorry, I'm speaking about at the shed.
Okay.
There was that shooting period, correct?
Yes.
And there were no shots heard after that initial period, correct?
During, it was all in continuity.
Yes.
So there was no subsequent shots heard after that.
And so, and you later learned at some point that he had a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Is that right? Yes. So we can reasonably conclude that that happened in that period, correct? At the beginning?
That'd be reasonable.
Okay. And you had said during your direct testimony that at points he appeared to be trying to fire a firearm but maybe unable to do so. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it sounds like you are attributing that to the gunshot wound to his head. Is that right?
I'm attributing that to any number of circumstances or factors that could be present. And my training and experience as a firearm instructor for 20 plus years. What I can tell you is that a firearm may not fire for any number of reasons. It can be mechanically induced, chemically induced, a failure in the shell itself, or a failure on the operator of that firearm, or any combination thereof.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
Anything further to say?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you.
Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would call Detective Carell.
Good afternoon, Detective Carell.
Good afternoon, sir.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, face Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, may be seated.
Thank you. Cool.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, when you're comfortable, please introduce yourself to the judge and spell your last name for the court reporter.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Detective Carell with the Raleigh Police Department. My last name is spelled Correll.
Detective, how long have you been with Raleigh Police Department?
15 years.
And are you currently assigned to a unit there?
Yes, I am.
What are you currently assigned to?
It's called the Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit.
And in October of 2022, what unit were you assigned to?
I was on the Homicide Unit Team 1.
And as a condition of your employment there with Homicide Unit Team 1 on October the 13th of 2022, did you respond to the investigation that we're here talking about?
Yes, sir, I did.
And was your job to respond to the McConnell Oliver Drive location?
It was, yes, sir.
Is that the location that we were just hearing Officer Clark and Sergeant McDonald talk about?
Yes, sir.
And when you responded to that location, was that sometime after all the events that we had just heard about had transpired?
Yes, it was.
Do you recall how long after that?
I don't. It would have been hours. It was dark when I got there.
And when you got there, were you the only investigatory personnel that was there?
No, sir, I was not.
Who else was there?
The State Bureau of Investigation was also conducting a parallel investigation at that location due to the officer-involved shooting aspect.
Is that because the police officer returned fire?
Correct.
Okay. When you went there, though, what was your primary objective?
So I was attached, in a manner of speaking, to the SBI as a part of the Raleigh Police homicide investigation. So I was working alongside them, documenting evidence found at that scene as it related to the murders.
Okay. And we've kind of heard some testimony that there are multiple crime scenes that are going on kind of all parallel and at the same time. Fair?
Correct.
And did you guys have a plan about how you were going to manage all of those crime scenes?
Yes, sir. This one, for obvious and numerous reasons, was a little unorthodox for us. Detective Sergeant Wilkins contacted me, and a plan was made that the homicide detectives would each have their own scene or portion of this larger incident. Mine just happened to be the barns where Mr. Thompson was located.
All right. And so when you responded to that location, I think you said one of your jobs was you were going to document what was located there.
Correct.
And in order to do that, some photographs were taken. Is that
Yes,
fair?
sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 10. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 10, if you will. Just take a quick look at it. You've seen that before?
I have.
Okay. And are those photographs from that crime scene?
Yes, sir, they are.
And do they kind of document the interior of that shed or barn that we've just heard some testimony about the defendant being located in?
They do.
And when we were hearing about the incident and we saw the body cam, it sounded like there was a lot of return fire.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in documenting the crime scene, did you also have to document the return fire portion of it?
Yes, I did.
Those photographs are not included there, though, correct, for the most part? And there may be some bullet holes and things like that, but
Sure.
I mean, the spent cartridges and all that stuff from the police portion of this is not contained there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when you went through and documented, as well as the SBI in their documentation, did you make note of the things that were collected from the area that the defendant was located?
Yes, sir, I did.
We've heard some testimony about a shotgun. Did you find the shotgun?
Yes, sir.
You just heard some testimony about a handgun. Did you find a handgun?
Yes, sir.
Did you find any other weapons?
There were several knives as well.
Right. We had heard testimony from other individuals that the defendant, when they had seen him, was wearing a backpack. Were you able to locate a backpack?
Yes, sir.
Was there any indication within that shed that led you to believe that there had been a self-inflicted gunshot wound?
Yes, sir.
And can you describe for us a little bit what you noticed that led you to believe that?
So in previous testimony, we've described the deep right corner of that larger structure where the suspect was eventually located. If you're standing under the ceiling of that structure, facing that deep right corner, I guess the short wall, so the wall that would be to your right that abuts to the portion of that structure that had the bay door, that wall directly behind where the suspect was located, there was a defect in that wall consistent with a shotgun being fired at it. There was also some black substance that appeared to be soot that's common when a shotgun is fired to be projected out the barrel along with the projectiles. That was located around the area where the defect was observed.
Okay. And have you responded as a homicide detective and a police officer to self-inflicted gunshot wounds?
Unfortunately, yes, sir.
Okay. When you located the shotgun that was also there, was there anything about the shotgun that confirmed or strengthened your opinion about this being a self-inflicted wound?
Yes, sir. When the shotgun was eventually collected, that is moved from the location where we first observed it, the gun was first made safe. That's cleared the round out of the breech that was still in there.
So was there a round still in the breech?
Yes, so there was a spent round within the breech, meaning that after the shot had been fired, or the last shot from that gun had been fired, the action had not been cycled to eject that shell.
Okay.
That shell, the spent casing, remained within the breech of that gun. When the gun was moved itself, blood and other tissue came out of the barrel. There was also blood and other tissue within the breech of the gun, meaning it had trickled down through deeper into the gun. And there was also hair at the end of the barrel, which is what you would expect to see from a self-inflicted gunshot wound with a shotgun.
When you cycled out the spent round of the breech, was there or were there any other cartridges located in the shotgun?
There was an additional round in the feeding tube of the shotgun. Yes, sir.
Just one?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, those photographs of State's Exhibit 10 that you reviewed, does it all appear to be as you saw it then?
Yes, sir.
At this time, Your Honor, the State would move to introduce State's Exhibit 10.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
It's allowed.
You also heard testimony about the defendant being drugged by the machine and there being from one side of the barn to the other side of the barn.
Correct.
Did you see anything that was consistent with that?
Yes, sir. There was a smear of blood leading, again, from that deep right corner we keep referencing across the floor of the barn past the John boat. Yes, sir.
And was there anything of note found on that blood trail?
Yes, sir. There was a pistol and a magazine.
And a magazine?
Yes, sir.
In the area or in the barn or shed, where in that barn or shed did you locate the backpack?
The backpack was located, this is an estimate, roughly 10 feet from where the suspect would have been seated in that deep right corner.
Okay. And were you able to look at the contents of that backpack?
I was.
And at some point, was there a secondary location where the defendant had been taken at that crime scene that you looked into?
Yes, sir. So there's the deep right corner, there's the smear of blood that leads across the floor of the barn, and then there's if the deep right corner is location 1, there's location 2 that's kind of halfway along that smear where the pistol is, and then there's location 3, which is, again, continuing to the left in the yard portion of that area.
So outside of the shed?
Correct. Yes, sir. It was
Okay.
there was leaves and debris in that area.
Was anything of note located there?
Yes, sir. There was a knife. The suspect's boots remained there, and there were 2 additional pistol magazines.
And were all of the pistol magazines that you located, did they all contain unfired rounds?
They did.
Did you find any additional rounds for the shotgun?
Yes, sir.
And did you make note of all of that?
I did.
Were all of these areas documented in State's Exhibit 10?
Yes, sir. They were.
Your Honor, at this time, the State would ask to publish State's Exhibit 10 on the screen.
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
I believe so. So, Detective, in looking at this, is this blue building to the right, is this the shed that the defendant was located in?
It is.
And I'll go to the next photograph. Can you tell us on this where he was located?
Yes, so that if you look straight ahead, the lump in the middle of the screen right there is the book bag. If you continue past that where the blue wall meets the white wall, that's what we've been referring to as the deep right corner throughout the various testimony given today.
All right. Now we see some defects on this side of the shed and some others here and here. Are those bullet defects?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And to your understanding, is that from the fire that the law enforcement returned?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I'll move forward to the next photo. Describe for us what we're looking at again.
All right, so you can see obviously the deep right corner, or what's been referred to as the deep right corner where the blue wall meets the white wall, excuse me. There's a puddle of blood, and beyond that, against the white wall, there's vomit. Located within that pile of blood, there was shotgun ammunition. As we move closer towards the viewer, there's the camo book bag. Some of the contents from within the book bag are strewn, again, closer to the viewer. You can see the beginning of the blood streak where the suspect was dragged from his original position to what I called position 2 earlier, where the pistol was found. That's moving, I guess, as the picture is oriented, closer to the white wall from right to left towards the John boat.
Is that like placards 12, 13, 14, that area?
You're gonna have to forgive me. I
You
can't make out the
see it. I'll
numbers.
zoom
No,
in a
sir.
little bit. Does that help?
Yeah, sir. Those placards are located along the blood trail that I'm referring to.
Okay. And I'll,
I guess also of note, number 10 would be the shotgun.
okay, thank you. I'll move forward then. In looking at this photograph, which is the next, what are we kind of looking at here?
So these items were originally located within the book bag. You have binoculars, you have hydration material, you have granola bars. I think he had deodorant in there. They're gallon-sized plastic bags with shotgun ammunition separated out by the brand and not caliber, but the I guess specific type of shotgun ammunition that it is.
Meaning like buckshot or slug?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there cash there?
Yes, sir, there is.
Do you know how much money there was?
I believe it was a little over $700.
And is this a closer up view of the book bag?
Yes, sir.
And we can see kind of strewn about there the granola bars and the green and I think red or orange shotgun shells as well as black maybe.
Yes, sir.
Now moving further back into the corner, what are we looking at here?
So that would be the bloody area where the suspect was encountered. There's the shotgun located right behind placard number 10. You can see additional shotgun ammunition. It is hard to make out, kind of located within the blood pile there. And then right in front of number 12, that would be one of the 40 millimeter less lethal rounds that Sergeant McDonald was referring to.
Okay, and I'm gonna move here and kind of zoom in. It's kind of difficult to make out there, but in the photograph that you have in front of you, it may be a little clearer. Up here, what are we looking at here?
That's the defect that I was trying to describe earlier from the self-inflicted shotgun wound. You can see a defect in the blue siding, and then you can see, it's a little hard to make out in this photo, but there's a dark shadow around it. That's the soot or black substance that was propelled from the barrel of the shotgun.
Okay. Is this a closer up view of that shotgun?
It is.
Now, this is the area in which the defendant was encountered by law enforcement, fair?
Yes, sir.
All right, and again, if you will, with this closer up view, walk us through what we're seeing.
So you can see, obviously there's a lot of blood. The brown substance nearest the brown floorboard of the white wall is vomit. There is loose shotgun ammunition strewn throughout the bloody pile. And there's a spot in the middle of the blood. That would be where the suspect was seated, where the blood did not, I guess, flow under his body.
Okay. Now moving down the blood path, what do we see at these placards?
You're seeing additional shotgun ammunition strewn across that trail.
And what is placard 19?
That's the pistol that was located along the bloody trail. It's a Smith & Wesson Shield.
When you located this pistol, do you know if it was loaded?
It was.
Do you know how many rounds of ammunition it had in it?
9 rounds total. There was a magazine containing 8 and then 1 in the chamber.
And now, placard 21 in that photograph, is this the second magazine that you located inside the shed?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what its contents were, if any?
That magazine had 7 rounds in it. It was missing 1.
And then moving forward, it's like we've zoomed out. Is this the John boat that you're referring to the right?
Yes, sir.
And in the center here, is this the 9mm handgun that we were just talking about?
It is.
And what are we talking about further to the left there at placard 21 and 22, if you know?
Placard 21 is the pistol magazine that we talked about just a moment ago with 7 rounds in it. 22 is an additional shotgun round.
And now we're at 24, 25, and 26. Is this out in the yard that we were talking about?
Yes, sir. That's the leaves and debris once he's made it out, or once he's been removed from the structure itself and he's out in the open.
Okay. And in this, are these the magazines that you were talking about?
Yes, sir. Those are the final 2 magazines.
And then the colored items, red and burgundy, are those the unspent shotgun shells?
Yes, sir. Those are still more shotgun shells that are unspent.
And just here under the items, what are we looking at there?
That's a knife.
Are these the shotgun shells that were located in this location?
Yes, sir.
And how many unspent rounds are we talking about there?
15.
And are these the magazines
Yes.
from the yard area?
Yes, sir.
And how many rounds are we talking about here?
12 in total.
Okay. And so there's 4 in one.
Yes, sir. One was fully loaded with 8. One had 4 left in it.
And so in total, just to be clear, we would say that there were 4 9mm magazines, 1 that was contained in the gun, and 3 extras that were loose.
Correct.
Okay. Is this a close-up image of that 9mm now that it's been made safe?
Yes, sir, it is.
And looking at this, what, if anything, stands out to you about this photo of the shotgun?
So the shotgun is too long for a gun box. That's how we normally collect evidence and maintain it when moving it from a scene to a lab setting or to evidence. So we had to use 2 paper bags on either end of it and overlapping to contain the gun. You can obviously see blood on the firearm itself and then where it dripped from the gun, moving it from its original location to the box.
And are these the 2 cartridges that were located inside the gun?
Yes, sir. You can see the one on the left has blood and other tissue on it. That one is spent. The shell casing on the right, or excuse me, the cartridge on the right is not spent. That would have been the round that was in the tube.
Okay. And I think you talked about the dripping. Is this the dripping that you are referring to?
Yes, sir. As I described earlier, there was blood dripping from the barrel itself and then from the breech once we opened the breech to clear the weapon. Now, Detective, I want to ask you, in total, if you were able to make a calculation about the number of shotgun shells that were located at the scene. I made note of the number that we found at each of the locations. It was more than 100.
Over 100?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Inside of that bag, were you able to locate any other contents?
Yes, sir.
What types of things were located in the bag?
Toiletries, we mentioned food, water, deodorant, a change of clothes, multiple knives, face paint, spare contact lenses, toilet paper, cash, additional shotgun shells. I think that covers most of it.
Okay. Once you cleared this scene, these items were taken into evidence, fair?
Yes, sir.
And then you kind of went on and assisted throughout the investigation in other ways?
I did.
Okay. But that was all on the back end of the investigation. At the scenes, this was your main job?
That was my involvement at the scene portion.
All right. I don't have any other questions at this time, Your Honor.
Questions for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the state would call Elise Thompson. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Ms. Thompson. Place your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right. Face Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you, baby. See you.
Thank you, Ronan. Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you just tell us your name for the court and the court reporter, please?
Sure, it's Elise Enders Thompson.
And how do you spell your first name?
Elise.
And Ms. Thompson, how long have you lived in North Carolina?
I've lived there since the fall of '98.
And did you all live in the Hedingham neighborhood at some point?
Yes, we lived there our entire marriage, which is July of 2004.
And tell us who's in your family.
Myself, Alan, husband at the time, James, and Austin.
Back in October of 2022, how old were James and Austin?
Austin was 15, James was 16 and a half.
And how were they as brothers? to
They
one
were
another?
very good. They got along very well, and they did a lot of stuff together.
Like, what types of things would they do together?
Of course, they played video games. They were teenagers. They walked to and from the bus every day together. Growing up, we went to the pool all the time. They really enjoyed that. I'm trying to think.
No,
I'm sorry.
that's fine.
This is not the most calm situation I've been in.
It is not, and we appreciate you being here. They got along well, but
They did.
they were, personality-wise, were they different?
Yeah. James was more outgoing, and Austin was more like me, where it took him a few minutes to warm up to a room
Okay.
or to new people.
Okay.
But after that, he was fine.
Okay.
Such as he had his Sunday school class every Sunday, and he got along well with all of them.
With regards to, were they into sports, or was one more into sports than the other?
Yep. James, our late son, was more into sports, even though both of them were very athletic kids. Austin did, at the beginning of his sophomore year of high school, he took sports medicine as an elective, and I picked him up a couple times a week after school for that.
Okay. With regard, so what were the types of things that if Austin wasn't into sports, what were the things that he liked to do?
Besides video games, he liked to go fishing. He liked to go hunting with his dad, Alan. There was one, whenever I was going to the grocery store, they wanted to come with me because then they knew that they would get their favorite snacks.
Okay.
And they liked to go out for ice cream with me, which was, when we did, it was usually on a Sunday, most of the time.
You've mentioned video games several times.
Yeah.
Would they play video games together or separately?
They would play games separately. They would take turns for a couple of hours.
And where in the home did they have these video game systems in their rooms, or was there just one, or tell us about that?
There was one gaming system and TV that they worked on. It was a ranch house, so it was the kitchen, the open eating area, which was the table, and their video game with their chair and setup. And then there was another half wall like this, and then that was the living room.
Okay.
So we could see what was going on.
Okay. With regards to school, how did they do in school?
They were both on honor roll, so that was nice.
Okay. Was there a time where they, were they consistently on a roll?
For high school, yes. For middle school, if I remember correctly, it was merit roll.
Okay. And where did they go to middle school and high school?
Middle school, they went to the brand new, I've been there so many times dropping them off. It is right near Wake Tech off of Lewisburg Road, and it was the Riverbend. I'm sorry. Now I finally remembered. It's Riverbend Middle School, and it was the very first year that it had opened.
Okay.
They went.
And then they were both in high school back in 2022, is that right?
Yes, at Nightdale High School. Mm-hmm.
And by 2022, was James driving at all?
Yes. He was clocking hours to get his permit. And when high school started, he would drive my car, and I'd be in the passenger seat, and Austin would be in the back, and then he would get his 15 minutes in the mornings. And then after they were dropped off, then I drove on to work for the day.
Okay. And at that time, schedule-wise, when would you typically get home from work?
Around 5:30, 5:40.
And back in 2022, what was Alan doing for work?
Was a handyman.
Did he have regular hours, or was he kind of gone most of the day?
It was flexible, but usually he was gone during the day, Monday through Friday, typically.
And so what was the routine, kind of the daily routine with the comings and goings from home?
They were pretty self-sufficient as far as they would get up and get themselves ready for school. We didn't have to hound them at all. And then I would be getting ready after they did. And like I mentioned, I would get in the car and he could get his time in for school. And then I would go to work until 5. And then I would go right home, and if I wasn't going right home, I would stop at like the grocery store or get my hair cut or something like that, like a regular type of errands.
Okay. And did they ever have any incidents or get into any trouble during these times where they were at home alone?
Nope, they were really good kids. They were at home, at school, at Sunday school. As far as I know, they never even handed in a late assignment ever to school.
So I want, what time, I think you may have mentioned this, but what time typically, if you know, did they get home from school?
They got home around 3:10, I believe.
And that's when they would get off the bus?
Yes,
also.
and then they would walk home.
So I want to take you to the day that this all happened. What did you have any plans that afternoon or after work?
Yes, right from work. I ran an errand maybe to get an ice cream or something, and then I was getting my hair colored at 6. And that normally takes an hour. And then I would have gone home after that.
Okay. At what point that evening did you realize that there was something going on?
When her boyfriend turned on the television, we were in the kitchen. She was applying the hair dye, and he turned on the TV, and all of a sudden there's Hedingham shooter. Okay. So we ran and saw the news and saw the back area of Hedingham, which is where we lived at the time.
And what did you do once you saw this information?
I tried to call them, and neither of them picked up, and then I tried to text both of them, and I didn't hear back. And then, if I remember correctly, I immediately called Alan after that.
So what time of day, this would have been after work, after your errand?
Yeah, my hair appointment was not until 6 o'clock, okay. So I don't know, maybe 6:15, 6:30-ish. Okay. They turned on the TV, okay. And then we knew something terrible was happening.
And when you reached out to Alan, were you able to actually connect with him?
Yeah, I did connect with him. And of course it was stressful. I remember him saying that he got a flat tire, and he had a regular SUV, and because he got a flat tire, he had to empty out all of his tools to get to the spare tire, put it on, then he had to put all of his tools back. And so that took him, that's how I got home before he did.
And so by the time you're getting home, what is the Hedingham neighborhood like at that point? Did you notice anything
There was,
out of the ordinary?
yeah, there was a lot of police cars, and I was able to drive into the neighborhood on the firehouse side, which is Skycrest, I believe.
And when you got home, do you typically pull in the garage, or do you park up the street?
Yes, I normally pull in the garage, except there was a police officer on. When you're looking at the garage, the police officer vehicle with the lights on was on the left.
Okay. So, tell us about getting into your home that afternoon.
I parked very quickly across from our driveway. I parked across the street on the neighbor's side of the street, and I opened the garage door, the big door, to get in, and then we normally go through that door to get in the house every day. And that door was locked, which was very unusual. And I kept banging on the door, and then I didn't get a response, so I ran out of the garage and right onto it was a very easy U-turn, and ran up onto the porch.
And were you able to get inside?
Yes, I went to hit the doorbell, and then I was going to bang on the door, and the door was opened a little bit, and I was able to just walk into the house.
And then when you got inside, what happened? Where did you go first once you got inside?
I just walked in the house, and of course my head's on a swivel because all this stuff is going on, and I didn't see them in the kitchen. I glanced past their bedrooms, and then I walked into our master bedroom, which, as everyone knows, that's where I found his body on the bathroom floor.
And we've heard about that and its impact on you from others that heard it. Once you were outside of the home, what do you remember?
I remember running and screaming, and I went out the same front door that I came in, and I remember saying, they killed him, and then I remember running back in because I had to go to the bathroom because there was so much going on. And then I remember, as soon as I flushed the toilet, I remember a female officer knocking on the bathroom door saying, you have to come out now. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to clean up, I'm trying to change my clothes and stuff. And she's like, no, you have to come out now. So I remember throwing on a nightshirt, and she walked out with me, and she sat me in the rocking chair, which was in the driveway.
And you were taken for some medical treatment at that point?
Yeah, I had a panic attack, and I remember when someone walked me to the ambulance that was open, and I remember saying, oh, you got me on the first stick, thank you. And that's all I remember. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital bed, and Alan was sitting next to me, and all I could see was just police officers.
When you wake up, or you kind of come to, or I guess
Yeah, I did.
Get to your faculties more about you there in the hospital. Is that when you learn kind of what is going on?
Yes, what I remember waking up, I remember a male detective sitting there, and he said, Austin did this. And you know, you don't think of that. That's your child. You're like, what? And they're like, Austin did this. He left a note. And I'm like, you know, you're just not comprehending what's happening to you.
Right.
You know, you try, and then I don't even remember what questions they were asking me after I woke up.
So leading up to this incident, had you noticed a change at all in Austin?
No, not at all. It was a complete shock. There were no different moods, no different behavior, nothing.
Had he, I know there's been some testimony that he was, was he taking any prescription medications that you know of?
Yes, he and his brother both, they were taking acne medication, but I don't remember the name of it.
Okay.
I just knew they took it once a day.
And how long had they been taking that, if you remember?
I think it was almost a year. I'm pretty sure.
From the time when they started taking that, or specifically when Austin started taking this medication, did you notice a change in him at all?
Nope, I didn't notice any behavior changes at all.
Did he ever complain or mention that the medicine made him feel weird or anything like that?
No, nothing at all.
He continued to make good grades?
Yes, they both did.
And when he was, when the boys would play video games, do you remember what types of games these were?
I'm pretty sure it was Call of Duty.
And would they play, you know, I think you have the ability, I could just play right here in my living room, or I could play with someone online.
Yeah,
would they do that?
Yes, they would. They had, I don't know what the headset was, that allows you, and it's got the microphone, and they could talk to other people. Sometimes it was overseas.
Okay.
It was English speaking.
Okay. And did the boys have cell phones?
Yes, they recently had cell phones. Yep.
Ms. Thompson, is there, understanding that this is likely a parent's worst nightmare, is there anything that you could think of that, looking back, you feel like maybe you should have noticed or seen?
No, that was I've run through that almost every day since the tragedy, and I don't remember seeing any issues at all, or mood swings or anything like that. He was just normal.
Is there anything, what if anything, would you like the court to know about how this has impacted you, understanding that you lost James during this?
Yes.
What, if anything, would you like to tell the court about how this has impacted you?
Yeah, we lost both of our children in one afternoon. I wrote a thing.
That's fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I read it now, or do you?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Okay. No one ever thinks they will outlive their child, let alone find their lifeless, bloody body. No one ever expects to have everything important to them ripped away from them in a single afternoon. I'm not sure anyone can understand where Alan and I sit. We both lost our children, one at the hand of the other. We never saw this coming and still cannot make sense of it. To know that my son, who I carried for 9 months, caused all of this heartache and tragedy is still a complete shock. Austin was a happy kid. He was an honor roll student who never caused any trouble, problems at school or Sunday school. He was a great kid and a great brother and a great son. What he did makes no sense to me. We don't know why he did it, and we may never know why he did it. I just can't make any sense of it. The child that got up that morning on October 13th, 2022 would never have done this. I just can't comprehend it. I've heard the reason is the acne medication. We've asked the investigators to help find the reason. We gave them everything, our phones, our photo albums, our computers, everything from our house to help them figure out why. They still don't know why. Even though it won't bring back James or anyone else's loved ones, and even won't undo the injuries suffered by the 2 survivors, we still long for an answer. How could the kid I knew and raised do this? And I don't know, because he wouldn't have done this. Austin, I know you did this, and I also know as your mom, this wasn't anything you had in you. You and James were great babies, kids, and teens. You and James were our world. I miss you both every day. I can't imagine a day there will ever be where I don't miss you. As parents, we will never get to witness the milestones that you and James would have experienced. In my lifetime, I will not see either of you get your driver's license, go to the prom, see you walk across the stage to get your high school diplomas, or see you attend college. I will miss watching both you launch into adulthood, getting married, and potentially having your own children. We belong to the worst club on earth. My heart is shattered, and so are my hopes and dreams for you and James. We have nothing left to look forward to. I lost both of you in one afternoon. The last thing I want to say is to the families of the victims, Susan, Mary, Nicole, Gabriel, and to the survivors, Lynn and Casey. I know your lives have changed permanently, and I am and will forever be sorry for the pain that this has caused you. That's it.
Thank you. Ms.
Yep.
Thompson.
Mr. Nutt, we're going to take a break and we'll return at 4 o'clock.
I will let Your Honor know, I have hours of material, but I intend to just recall her in my case so as to not interrupt their presentation. So I won't have any questions for her today.
All right, very well. Then, ma'am, you may step down and we'll ask you to stay. Submit yourself a further question. All right, in that case, we'll take a recess until
Further evidence for the state.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Alexandra Bennett.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bennett. Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, face Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Mr. McClure.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Bennett, when you're comfortable, please tell the judge your name and if you'll spell it for the court.
Yes, sir. Alexandra Bennett. So it's Alexandra. And then Bennett is Bennett.
Thank you. Ms. Bennett, what do you do for a living now?
So I now run the hardscapes division at Triangle Landscape Supplies Site 1 in Raleigh.
Okay.
Triangle Landscape Supplies.
And that's a good cue for me to remind you. Please kind of speak slowly so that Madam Court Reporter doesn't have to interrupt us or yell at us either way, okay? So you do that now. At some point, were you a teacher?
Yes, sir, for 3 years before that.
And where did you teach?
I taught at Knightdale High School.
Did you teach at Knightdale High School for all 3 years?
Yes, sir, from my first year to my third year.
And what years did you start teaching?
Started in the fall of 21 right out of college up until the spring of 24.
So in October of 2022, you would have been teaching class at Knightdale High School.
That's correct.
And what classes were you teaching at Knightdale High School?
I taught the science classes, so that semester I was teaching biology and I believe an earth science class as well.
And during the course of teaching that semester, did you have the defendant, Austin Thompson, as one of your students?
I did, yes.
And do you recall what period you had him?
For the year that the incident happened, I had him fourth period, the last class period of the day.
All right. And October the 13th of 2022, do you remember that day?
It was a whirlwind of a day, a little busy because I was also coaching while teaching. But it was just a normal day reviewing.
And did you teach Austin that day?
I did, yes, during that fourth block.
And was he present in class that day?
He was, yes. He sat closest to the door.
Okay. How long had you known Austin?
A little over a year. I also taught him his freshman year for earth science.
All right. So this is the second time that you had taught the defendant.
That's correct.
And can you describe him for us, like what type of a person he was?
Of course. So freshman year, I mean, he was a little reserved, a little shy. But then when he came sophomore year to me, he was more into his own self. Still reserved, but definitely participated in class. Answered questions when called upon. He liked to answer most of the questions. And he wanted to make sure he had all the right information.
When you say you wanted to make sure he had all the right information, what do you mean?
He wanted to know any and everything when it came to the sciences. He wanted to make sure that he had the correct answers so that when it came to tests and quizzes, he would be able to ace them.
What was his behavior like?
In class that day, it was normal for him. We had our vocabulary review. We did team review that day on the vocab, and so he got a little competitive, little teenage snark kind of attitude because his teammate wasn't helping as much, but just normal Austin.
Okay. When you say he had a little teenage snark, was that normal for him?
It was, yes. From time to time, especially when it came to the review games, he always wanted to be the winner. I had a prize box that they all got to go into whenever they won or were in the top 10 students who did the best in the game.
Would you say that he was competitive?
Yes, very competitive.
Would you say that he was a smart student?
Yes, and diligent.
Turned in his work on time?
Yes, very rarely was there anything late. It was almost always on time.
Did he turn in any assignments on that day?
He did. I can't recall which assignment exactly, but there was one due that day that he did turn in on time.
Okay. You had described him as a shy person the freshman year, and I think you said still shy his sophomore year, but a little more into himself as far as figuring out a little more who he was. Is that what you mean, or what do you mean by that?
Correct, yes. Figuring out who he was by meaning more presentable, not really shy anymore, able to talk when called upon, and even when just asked questions, he would be one volunteering answers.
Okay. Being a teacher, I imagine that there are some students that give you behavioral problems.
Yes.
Okay. Was the defendant one of those students?
No, not at all.
Now, other than the fact that you say he was a little less shy, maybe, was there ever anything that stood out to you about him that gave you any concern or pause that maybe you need to have some extra attention given to the defendant?
No, not cautionary pause or anything. He might ask for my attention to answer questions on things, but nothing out of the ordinary, no precursors or signs or anything of that nature.
When you're a teacher, is that something that you're kind of looking for?
Yes, absolutely, especially at Nightdale.
Okay. And so having that as something that you're looking for, did you see any warning signs or, for lack of a better word, red flags that gave you any concern about the defendant?
No, not from Austin.
Other than that being a little less shy, did you notice any major personality shifts for him?
No, nothing major. He was just his normal self when he came in.
And when you say, I'm not even talking about just that day, I mean from the day that you met him freshman year until the day of October the 13th, was there any big shifts like that?
No big shifts, no.
On the day that October the 13th, would you have characterized your dealings with him as normal?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you have characterized the defendant as a normal teenager?
Yes.
And on that day, the 13th, would you have still, your dealings with him, found him to be behaving normally?
Yes, that day I didn't think anything of it. He was behaving his normal self.
At some point, did you learn about what he did in the neighborhood that day?
I heard that it was Austin the morning after in first period. I heard about the shooting that evening. My fiance was at a football game in the area at the time.
And when you learned about that, did it have an effect on you?
Yes. I mean, it was really close by to where my students were at, where my fiance was at. So I was just worried and concerned to make sure that she came home safe and that all of my students were safe as well.
And long term from all of this, did it affect your life in any way?
Yes. I left teaching early. I needed the break to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, get my mental health back in order, and now finally going back into teaching is the goal.
Okay. Well, thank you for teaching, and I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Very briefly, Ms. Bennett, did you and Austin have an ongoing joke about caffeine?
Yes, we did.
Tell me about that.
So I had a Keurig in my classroom that I always had coffee brewing pretty much. I had my Spider-Man mug that I would drink out of, and I also had Red Bull from time to time that I would drink as well.
And so did he tease you about caffeine consumption?
Yes, that I was having way too much of it, yes.
Was he a little bit of a jokester?
About the caffeine and other such natures, yes, from time to time, yes.
No further questions.
Anything further? Ms. Fate?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Madeline Solak.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, face Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you, may be seated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, will you please introduce yourself to the judge and spell your name for the court reporter?
Hi, I'm Madeline Solak, Madeline, and then my last name Solak, Solock.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Solak, at some point, did you teach the defendant?
I did.
Okay, and what grade was that?
In like what, his grade?
Yes,
Okay, his sophomore year.
his sophomore year. Okay, so would that have been 2022?
Yes,
And were you his teacher on October the 13th of 2022?
I was.
What class did you teach?
At the time, I was teaching 3 different classes, so CompTIA, ITF plus, fundamental, it doesn't matter. Digital Design and Animation 1 and Business Essentials.
And what did you teach all of those to the defendant?
No, I taught Digital Design and Animation 1.
All right.
It was second period.
Is that a computer-based class?
It is a computer-based class.
All right. And how long had you been teaching that class?
It was my second week teaching.
And before that, did you know the defendant?
I did not.
Did you know his brother James?
I did not.
In teaching that class, did the defendant have access to computers in class?
Yes, he did.
And was that normal that all the students that are in your class had that access?
Yes, it's expected that every student has access to the technology because the class is based in Photoshop, Illustrator, and 3ds Max, animation software.
What's the last one?
3ds Max.
And in teaching the defendant, did you get to know him a little bit?
A little bit. Like I said, I'd only been teaching for 2 weeks at the time, so not very much.
And is this the first 2 weeks that you had ever taught?
Yeah, it was the first 2 weeks I'd ever taught. I graduated from NC State in the spring of that year, and then I actually was hired in August, but because of my background check, it took a little while to go through. I didn't start until the second quarter in October.
Now, just for clarification, the background check taking a little while did not have anything to do with you.
No, Virginia uses couriers to do their background checks, and there was a courier shortage at the time. As I learned in my ALI program, Alternative Licensure, we were all from Virginia, so it took everybody a little bit longer.
Okay. So you had newly minted teacher, you're there, you're teaching this class. What little interaction that you had for those few weeks, how would you have described Austin, the defendant?
Quiet. I definitely had other students in the class who were louder, did more attention-seeking type behavior, or required my attention more frequently. He had a few friends. He had a few people it seemed like he talked with. That's about as much. Just not super. It was a weird time in the class because I was taking over from another teacher and starting into just the software portions of the class rather than the busy work.
So they're more on the computers?
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with the defendant on the computers?
Yes, he liked to play first-person shooter games on the computer.
And he would do that in class?
Yes.
How would he get access to that on the school computers, if you know?
I do not. It was a different time then, a little bit. I know that there's like an updated way now. The county tries to block things like that, but these kids are really smart. So
you would have had to find a way to get to the game, or to get around whatever system there was to find it on the computers there?
yes.
Okay. Would you characterize him as smart?
Yes.
Okay. I know you said quiet. I kind of asked the first teacher that we just had up here a moment ago, Ms. Bennett, if she had anything that stood out to her at that time that gave her any concern about his behavior. Did you have anything that concerned you about his behavior?
Yeah, there was one instance with another student where I was a new teacher, they didn't know my name yet. Instead of asking me, they kind of snapped at me, like you'd snap at a dog to get its attention.
Like snap their finger at you?
Yeah, snap their finger. And I remember turning and being like, I'm not a dog. Don't do that to me. If you don't know my name, you just ask.
And when you did that, how was that received?
Fine. I think maybe like they were a little embarrassed. It wasn't just him, it was another student who did it as well. But I think they were both they weren't expecting me to say that.
Okay. But they took the correction?
Yeah, they took the correction.
Did they snap at you again?
Never.
Okay. And so seem to understand what you had told them and not to do that again?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's a small thing, but was there anything that stood out to you to make you think that there were larger issues at play that you needed to have somebody investigate or deal with him in any way?
No, nothing that, as the previous teacher had said, we're kind of always on the lookout for things like that, just because it can be a major difference at the school. And I can't think of anything that would have made me think to call my admin or even tell like a co-teacher, hey, this was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
About his behavior. There was one assignment that he had that was more, it's like on reflection, it was a weird
At the
thing,
time it didn't stand out?
But at the time it didn't stand out.
Okay, well, upon reflection, looking at that assignment, what would that assignment have been?
We were talking about color psychology and how different colors are associated with different emotions and all of that stuff. And so it was a basic worksheet where they had to write the color and what it was associated with. And I don't remember what it said exactly. I'm sure somebody has it somewhere. But it was the color red. And I said it meant many things, love, and now I'm blanking. Love, anger, hurt. There's a bunch. I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Yeah. We're not going to grade that. So.
And he had just wrote anger, like red means anger, and it was just kind of weird because I did say that, but I said a lot of things.
So it was an appropriate response,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you said at the time it didn't stand out to you.
No.
Okay, but hindsight being 20/20 and knowing what happened, that's why it raises an issue for you now. Okay, but again, you admit you had said that, and so it was the right answer.
It was reasonable to write. It was, if any other student had written it, wouldn't have thought anything about it.
Right. I want to ask you, you said about the video games, I want to go back to that. How often would he be on the video games in class?
Pretty much every day. I said 2 weeks, but that's really 10 school days of me getting to observe. I recall like he would do his work, but then immediately would turn to the video games as kind of like a pastime until like the next class started.
Did you think that he was doing the work just to get to the games? Or how would you characterize that?
A little bit, but it's not something I would hold against him personally, just because, like I said, the class had been structured weird. Another teacher had like been teaching the other essential parts of the curriculum that were not design or software based, and so it was a struggle for the whole class switching from never touching a software to, okay, now we're going to speed run through everything super fast. So a lot of students were doing that, where they did as much to get the credit and then kind of did what they wanted.
So he was kind of doing what all the other students did.
Yeah.
In a normal way.
Yeah.
Okay. On the day, October the 13th of 2022, did he turn in an assignment to you that day?
He did.
Okay. And was that the due date of the assignment?
I don't recall. It might have been, but I typically made things due on Friday, so it might have been the next day of his due.
Okay, so he wasn't late. If anything, he was a day ahead on the assignment.
Yes.
Okay. And so the day that he shows up for class on the 13th, would you say that he was behaving normally?
Yes. The weirdest thing, I guess, is that, so to give context, we were making a burger menu in Illustrator just to get them used to the software, and they were only supposed to have their burger inside done, and I remember his burger was green.
Okay.
Like the bun was green. It was weird.
Okay. And so that stood out to you as something odd?
Yeah, I've never had a student do that before.
Okay. But he turned in the assignment on time, and other than the color of the burger, it was appropriately done?
Yes, everything was completely right. I even checked in with him on it to ask. It's a simple thing to change the color. And I asked, and he was like, no, it's fine. And I was like, okay, it looks nice to me.
Okay. And so at some point, did you find out about what had happened that the defendant did in the neighborhood?
Yes. I don't really watch the news. I'm also not from here. I'm from Virginia Beach. And so the next day I found out, not a supervisor, but just somebody who has a slightly higher position than me. It's called the CIMC. He came and sat in my class. That wasn't weird. He was one of the co-teachers for one of my other classes, and he sat through it and just asked to charge his computer, and I was like, that's fine. I was honestly a little nervous because I thought I was being observed. And then at the end of the class, he told me what had happened, and I didn't even know that Hedingham fed into Nightdale. So
when you found out what happened and you realized that you taught him, was it a surprise to you?
Yes. I had 2 students missing that day, and the person didn't know who it was, so it could have been either student, and I told him that I had no idea which one it was because they were both good kids. It didn't seem like nothing was abnormal.
As a result of all of this, has this had an effect on your teaching?
Yeah, it has.
How so?
First-person shooter games are banned in my classroom. All my students now will tell you it's one of my 4 non-negotiables. I'm very, very strict on it. I get really emotional when I see it just because it reminds me. So I give them a warning, and then I threaten to call their parents, and I unplug their computers.
Is there anything else about this that stood out to you? No? All right. Thank you, and I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Lynette. This is Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Ms. Solly. Just one quick question for you. It's your understanding and just your experience that first-person shooter games are popular with a lot of kids, I guess especially boys.
Yes, that would be a fair statement to say.
And even boys that you don't have any problems with or troubles with or don't have any issues with are into first-person shooter games.
Yeah, I would say so.
And that's an extremely popular genre of video game, correct?
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Just briefly, while it's a normal thing that people are interested in, given the things that went on that day that the defendant did after this, is that why it is a triggering issue for you?
Yes. It reminds me very much of what happened just because he did play. And I would also like to say that most kids know they're not supposed to be playing them in school because it's not appropriate.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions?
No further. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call Laura Wright.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wright.
Good afternoon.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, and face Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony that you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So
I
help
do.
you God. Thank you, Ms.
Sure.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, ma'am. When you get comfortable, or as comfortable as you can get in that chair, please introduce yourself to the judge and spell your name for the court reporter.
I am Laura Wright, Laura-W-R-I-G-H-T.
And Ms. Wright, how are you employed?
I am a career development coordinator for Wake County Public Schools, and I'm based at Nightdale High School.
And what does a career development coordinator do?
It's a fancy word for a career counselor.
Okay.
And I basically work with students to make sure that they succeed in post-secondary plans. Mainly, we have this 4E initiative that we push. Either we're going to enlist them in college, employ them, entrepreneurship, or enroll them in, enlist them in the military, enroll them in college, or entrepreneurship, or go straight into employment. And that's what I do every day.
And so that's your job every day?
Every day.
And how long have you been doing that job?
For about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay. Now, we heard just now from Ms. Solog, who said at the time she had only been a teacher for about 10 days. How long had you been a teacher?
At that time, I believe 18, 19 years. I'm currently 22 in education, but I've been a teacher for 18 years before I moved into the career development coordinator position.
Okay, so you taught for 18 years and then transitioned into this career coordinator position.
Correct.
Okay. But still within the school system?
Yes, my office is based in the school, and I work with the entire school body, but as a career counselor instead of a classroom teacher.
All right, so dealing with students, not a new thing for you?
No.
Okay. And in October of 2022, you were employed as this counselor, but did you take on a teaching position within Nightdale High?
Yes, I did. On the first day of school, the teacher of record quit, turned in their keys that morning, and I had a knock on my door to please help. And they were going to do their best to get a teacher, but if I could just do them a favor and teach the class until they can get either a long-term substitute or a teacher hired. And I said, okay.
And so what class did you take over teaching?
Digital design and animation.
Digital design and animation?
Yes.
And is that something that you had experience in teaching before?
I taught previous computer classes during my 18 years, and it was on my license area, so they came to me and said, you could do it. So I said, okay.
All right, well, will you describe generally how that class worked for you?
For me?
Well, your lesson plan as in how it was structured.
So because it'd been a long time since I taught that class, and we just got thrown into this situation, I taught mainly the foundations of computer, which I knew very well, and I saved, some of the complicated things for the new teacher when she was coming, because I knew it would not be there very long. That was my, hope as they could find a teacher, hopefully.
Okay. And when you were teaching that, did the students have access in the classroom to computers?
They did.
Okay. And as a part of their lessons, were they using the computers?
We attempted, but it became very difficult due to the fact that the students possess very skillful knowledge on how to bypass the system that Wake County had to keep them off of websites that they're not supposed to be on.
Okay. And was one of the students that possessed this very skillful behavior the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And What, if anything, drew your attention to the way he was using the computer?
All of his games that he played were the shooting games.
And now, to be fair, was he the only student in there playing those types of games?
He wasn't the only student, but I would say the rest of the class kind of varied in their games, or, the football players would be watching plays from ESPN, the girls would be watching hair videos. It's like something different that I had, but his was always the same thing.
Okay. And other than this video game and always being engaged in the video game, how would you describe him as a student?
For the most part, very respectful. I constantly had to redirect him at least 3-4 times during a 90-minute class period. He would attempt to acknowledge my redirect. He would say, okay, but sadly he would lose focus and go right back to playing the video game in a very polite way, but he just went right back to it. So.
Would you say that he was a goal-oriented student?
I would say so, yes. He wanted to know what he needed to do, in order to get the work done. And I think that was something that he wanted to do in order to get to the thing that he really wanted to do.
Okay. Which was play the games?
Correct.
All right. And I think you kind of said you would have to redirect him. How would he take the redirection?
He would get frustrated sometimes. His desk was directly in front of mine. So if we pretended I had an L-shaped teacher desk just like this, and his seat was diagonal from me, right like there. Mm-hmm. And I would redirect him, and he would get on do his work, and I would turn, because my computer was here, and I could type something, and I'd turn right back, and Austin was back on the game.
Okay. So while you were watching, he would go to the work, and as soon as you would turn your back, he would be right back to the game?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you've been here for the other teachers testifying. Was your experience with him similar to theirs as far as his behavior and kind of how you viewed him as a young man?
I would say mostly, for the most part. Like I said, very respectful. Other than, deep sighs or a little frustration, he never said anything out of the way or disrespectful. Other than the only issues we had was the constant redirect, do your work. Trying to figure out ways to keep him off the game and do his work. It's the biggest issue that I had with them.
Okay. And as someone who's been in education for as long as you have and the experience that you have with it, you've heard these other teachers testify about being on the lookout for, as I've termed it, red flags or some issues or something that causes concern. Is that something that you were and still do participate in?
Absolutely.
Okay. And at the time, was there anything that stood out to you about the defendant, either his behavior or his work, that caused you any concern?
Other than the need to constantly be on that game. That was the biggest concern. So much so that I had to call in one of our tech gurus to ask them for assistance because it had gotten so bad.
When you say it had gotten so bad, do you mean as a class-wide thing, or is it a defendant-specific thing?
No, the class thing.
Okay.
Like I said, it was just they were playing video games, and that's not something that I do in my classroom. I was trying to figure out how to get it to stop.
And you took every step that you could in order to make that stop?
Yes, like I said, I reached out and asked them for a software program that I know we used to have in Wake County schools, and I was told we no longer had it because I was very good at that software program that allowed me to block all of the different backdoor access they were using. Mm-hmm. And it was wonderful. So when I got in that classroom, I was looking for it on the computer and I couldn't find it. So I reached out to someone and asked, where is it? I need it. And they said it was not available anymore.
At some point, did you find out about what Austin had done?
Yes.
And did that have an effect on you in any way?
Yes.
How so?
Just thinking if there was something I could have done, trying to figure out that, did something play a part in this? Just thinking about all of his assignments that he did. Just trying to figure out if it was something that I probably could have, saw or reported.
Or any warnings?
I wouldn't say a warning, but when you look back, I got upset with the class one day and I restricted access to the computer and I made them do everything on paper because I was old school.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the assignments was that they had to create a comic book strip and they had to go frame by frame. And instead of letting them do it on the computer, I made them all turn off their computers and I made them do it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to have a hero, a villain, however they wanted to write the story. And when I look back at it, his story involved a hero turned villain, and they were shooting some of the characters in the comic book strip. I turned that over.
And that's not something that at the time stood out to you, but again, this hindsight?
It wasn't at the time because of the directions, which he followed the directions. So he did exactly what he was asked, but sadly, afterwards I'm thinking, could that have been, but I was assured I didn't create the assignment. That was something given by DPI, the CTE curriculum. I followed it, and he did the assignment as asked.
So, Ms. Wright, I think ultimately you spoke to law enforcement about your interactions with the defendant, right?
Correct.
And you shared this information with them.
Yes.
And I think ultimately you said that you did not see anything behaviorally that led you to think something like this would have happened.
Correct.
As you sit here today, do you still feel that way?
I do. When I look back, we did everything that we could possibly do, and there was nothing that I could have did more at the time.
And in the time that you dealt with the defendant, did you ever see any drastic alterations in his moods or behavior?
No, he was consistent every day. Same thing every day.
Would you have considered him to be normal in your dealings with him, a normal teenager?
Yes.
Okay. At least in what he presented to you?
Yes, what he presented to me was normal.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination. Questions for the defense?
Just a couple of questions, Mr. Wright. Thank you for coming today. I think you had just summed it up with Mr. Latour. Generally, everything that Austin did was normal teenage stuff. Can you have the answer out?
Yes, correct.
And I guess one of the problems with today is kids are constantly on computers or electronics of some form, right?
Correct.
And it's similar with adults. When we have phones, we're constantly on phones and stuff like that, right?
Correct.
Did Knightdale have a policy about phone restrictions when they were at school?
Yes.
What was the policy and rule at that time?
I cannot recall what the policy was then. I can't recall.
Okay. I'm assuming they weren't allowed to have their phones out. I know a lot of schools do. You can do it at lunch or to call your parents at the end of the day, but they're not supposed to have their phones out.
Correct.
During class. And so when you're in a computer room where the safeguards that you had before about kids not being able to get on these websites was not there anymore, they were able to just go to these websites whenever they wanted, right?
In that room, yes. As I said, this particular program I was looking for was not there, but there were safeguards that were in place. But like I said, there were several students that somehow figured them out. I never had an issue before as much as I did with that particular class, and I believe it's because most of those kids were techies themselves,
right.
So they possessed a higher level of knowledge than most would, so I didn't encounter that as much as I did there.
Okay. So you had the football players watching football, and then you said some of the girls watching hair videos, I'm assuming, and then the techies playing games.
Yes, a variety of things, but like I said, I constantly redirected that because that's not how I run the class, which is why they ended up on punishment, and I just took the computers away because it was very difficult for me to control all of that going on with their skill level.
And did you ever get into any career counseling with Austin? Did y'all ever work with him on that end?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Further questions? Yes, sir.
Just briefly, ma'am, we talked about this constant redirection. Was it more for the defendant than for the other students in the class?
Absolutely.
Or was he on par with the other students?
No, it was a little bit more.
Okay.
For Austin. And like I said, he was directly in front of me. So it was, I guess the other kids were a little more skillful in their sneakery, you know. But like I said, it would be immediate for him.
And he was in a tough spot.
He was in a very tough spot.
To be sneakier.
Right, because he's directly in front of me.
Is that by design, or was that just how it happened?
That's just how it happened. When I guess he picked that seat. I didn't give him seats.
Fair enough. But the redirection was more for him than for other students in your estimation?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, John.
No, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
If you have a relatively brief witness, we can move forward. If not, we can recess for the afternoon. All right.
I don't think our next witness would be finished in 15 minutes.
All right. We'll recess for the afternoon. Resume tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Yes, Your Honor, Supreme Court. Be recessed to tomorrow morning, 09:30 hours.
Thank you.